This memory popped on my timeline this morning. Used to run a computer repair shop. One of the standard operating procedures was of course to dust out the fans with compressed air. We also ran down the entire repair manifest with the customer at pickup time. This eliminated the "well, you never told me you," or "why is it $85, when all you had to do was," so we tell her we tested all of the output voltages, dusted the system fans. At which point she exploded. "You did what? You used chemicals on my computer." "No, ma'am, we dusted out your computer." "With chemicals?" "No, ma'am, we have an air compressor in the back, it has a moisture dryer on it, and is piped to all of the workbenches. It's just compressed air. But it's a machine, so it puts chemicals into the air, and I'm allergic to chemicals." "Ma'am, no, I assure you any traces of chemicals would have long dissipated if that were even possible. You're going to buy me a new computer. This is outrageous. No one told you to spray chemicals on my computer." "Ma'am, let me get this straight, you want us to buy you a new computer, of which the parts are made in China, with all sorts of chemicals used in the manufacturing process to give to you?" "Well," she huffed and puffed and stormed out. And this is how, after 22 years of retail service, I just can't deal with customer service anymore. TL Doctor, we had a lady in our who printed every email, web page, etc. and claimed it was due to her eyesight being bad. She was claiming some weird data accommodation and it actually had to hit legal before she was finally disciplined. Keep reading for specifics. Her workflow was horrific. Print document, edit it by hand, scan and edit, send email to herself, print that again, and scan to email to the customer. She had filled every single drawer, cabinet, and work surface at her desk and even a few filing cabinets out on the floor with her printouts. IT got involved because they were going through toner at an insane rate and she was basically treating this departmental printer like a personal printer. One of her suggestions for an accommodation was to get her a personal printer, which only addressed one of the problems. Lady was not very socially aware. No joke, we got a call from our printer contractor to inform us that we were exceeding our maintenance cycle by a lot. I personally hated every inch of it because of the sheer volume of paper she was wasting. Literal reams per week. More than the rest of her department, and this is our, who has to keep a lot of paper records. Her claim was that her eyes were bad and the screen caused eye strain, so under the ADA she was allowed accommodations. I suggested an e-increator of some sort. The boss kicked it to legal. Legal pointed out she had not provided any documentation of a disability and that even if she had, this didn't meet the definition of a reasonable accommodation by any stretch. Unbeknownst to IT at the time, it was actually worse than we thought. Her desire to avoid using a screen had her enlisting other people in the department to file her reports, again using her hand-edited printouts, which of course generated more printouts once the reports were finalized. Yes, there were several threats of a lawsuit from her. We're pretty laid back at our company, so no one retaliated or took things too seriously, but HR and legal had to sit her down and explain how the ADA actually works. Ultimately we offered to accommodate her with special glasses, screen filters, even ordering special screens to reduce blue light, and she was adamant that she didn't want them and had to be allowed to print everything. Boot came down. No unnecessary printing, period. She could either take the offered accommodations or not at her preference, but printing was now a no-no. Her desk would need to be cleaned, we had to replace the overhead because the IKEA-grade wood was warping under the weight. It took 3 interventions by IT and many more from her manager before her printing got down to something resembling the rest of her department. Part of her disciplinary action was being moved to the desk farthest from the printer, which I found endlessly amusing. Not sure if that's why she got fired, but she was fired sometime later. Somewhat related, my dad worked with a guy who kept so much paper at his desk the fire marshal declared it a hazard during an inspection. A bit of background. This happened more than few years ago when I was still at phone support. We served one of the bigger company that owned a particular high-end mall in our city. This includes their Windows XP, and yes, Win 7 had been out for ages, machines they ran for their POS. Roughly paraphrased, heck, it have been a few years, translated, for your benefit, and dramatized, also for your benefit. BC equals blonde clerk. OP equals super experienced support person of 3 months. OP, Hello, this is tech support. You're talking to Op. BC. Hi, this is BC from store such and such. I need you to do some techy stuff and grant me admin access. I can't run this USB cause it keeps asking for password. OP, I'm sorry, did you say USB? What are you trying to run? I assume you mean at the back office computer? BC, it's a bank USB and no, I'm at the POS. OP, I'm not quite following. What kind of USB was it? Where did you get it? BC, listen, I have a gentleman here waiting. I don't have time for this, just do your thing and fix the access. It's a big sale and he's in a hurry. OP, I understand, but per company policy we need to ask these questions for administrative access. So please just explain what it is you're trying to do and why. At this point I've connected to the POS to check what's up. It was the old-fashioned login to grant admin pop-up and a drive open with an icon literally just named bank.x. BC, I could hear her sigh. Look, this gentleman is a diplomat from China, just bought $40,000, or something, worth of jewelry. He need us to open this bank program to authorize the transfer to our POS. When I try to do that it keeps asking for administrator login. I was gasping by shock at the stupidity and my colleagues already put on the speaker on my phone. OP, okay, thank you. Unfortunately this program is not in the pre-authorized list of applications we're allowed to install. There's no such list, no apps is ever to be installed or run on POS that's not in the default image. So I'll have to send this for approval. BC, we can't wait for that, I'm going to miss a huge sale and I'll make sure they know you're the cause. Just give me the access. OP, sorry, I need to follow policy. But I'll make sure to go directly to the IT director of the company to get this fast-tracked. Got some more rants and we finally hung up. I did send an email to the IT director with all of the details. This girl, which was probably around 25, not only ran the program on the POS but then called to demand admin access. Looked her up in the system a few months later, her account terminated XD. Usually they inactivate most accounts to make it easier to rehire. Seasonal work. Forgive my formatting, I have no excuse, I am trash. Since y'all liked my last post I thought I'd include one from my early help desk at insert big name retail company. TLDR, a house fire and some photos made it rain indoors on a sunny day. Cast. Me, help desk whipping boy. CX, customer. CW, co-worker who knew his own limits and was a hoot. I was and unfortunately actually on the floor selling products when this CX came in stating his PC was acting strange and wasn't running right when using Microsoft Word. My CW took it and made the ticket and was explained it could take some time to diagnose the problem and we'd reach out to him with the issue and cost for fix if could be done. Once I was done selling my soul helping my customer, I started working on the few computers we had in the back. When I saw the ticket I figured I'd do a reset of Windows 10 on the computer and reinstall Office. He had an older version with a permanent license before the days of 365, so I was copying all the needed codes and I did a backup. Technically we are supposed to charge for these but screw corporate I wanted to help the customer. Well, while doing the backup I noticed there wasn't really a whole lot, some tax documents, work files and pictures of their kid and them, so I just did an old copy-paste to a USB rather than a full clone. Mid-backup his hard drive failed. Well crap, at least I have some of the backup, right? Wrong. A little panicked I hooked up his hard drive to our work desktop with a SATA to USB tool and after much finagling I was able to get into the drive to run our clone recovery tool to back up whatever files we could. Couldn't get much but got most of the photos and a few files. So I called him, explained what happened and he wanted to keep the laptop, so we swapped in a replacement HDD. We actually had one spare we were gonna chunk, had just done inventory and rather than correct the totals my boss preferred the old chunk and help he never noticed. Needless to say chunk usually meant Tex took turns taking extra merch home from pens to SSDs so long as they were less than $100 anything was fair game after inventory. It just so happened this HDD was gonna go home with CW but he didn't need it and this way we could probably still skirt by having to charge the CX. So we replaced the hard drive, reinstalled everything and put all his files into a folder labeled backup. We figured since it was a slow day behind the counter we wouldn't even charge him. We gave him a call, and when he got there I was explaining what we did and showing him the few files we found, and mid-sentence he breaks down crying and bear hugged me in the middle of the store. I'm not really a hug guy, more of a pat on the back, but I was so taken back I just kinda froze. And when he released me, he explained that the photos of his son he thought were lost. He had passed away from cancer almost a year ago, and after their house fire they lost all their physical photos and all of his stuff since they weren't very tech literate and couldn't find where they had saved them on the computer. They had effectively lost anything of him. He tried to pay us, we refused and called the checkout counter and told them his money was no good, so he couldn't try to leave anything at the front for us either. The weather forecast called for a sunny day, but man, it was raining behind that counter, I swear.